If you love talking about cats, but your friends and family are kind of over it, this is the podcast for you. Join your hosts, Danielle Stray Woolley and Elizabeth Calico Gearhart, on the Jersey Podcats, where everyday cat lovers share funny stories, challenging situations, and ask their questions about cats. All right, let's get right into this episode.
Hi, everybody. I am Danielle Woolley.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, and we are the Jersey Podcats.
I'm pretty excited that we did that. And I like how Doreen bopped her head when we said it. That's the flow we were going for. So we have a guest today with us, as we usually do. We have Doreen Laskiewicz from Doreen Photography, as well as Grit and Goals magazine. So she's going to talk a bit about both of those things. But before we dive in, I already know what Elizabeth is going to ask, because this has kind of become a thing. How many pet photos, right?
Yes.
On our phone.
How many pet photos are on your phone? I know you have a dog. You don't have a cat anymore. You did before. So dog photos count too for this.
Wait, so then should I be looking for cat, dog, or animals? Because I don't want to
animals.
I'll tell you what, I'll just look cat. Just to
okay, you
fair.
Just do cat to keep it fair. Do you know, Doreen, how many you have?
Actually right now, I think I have 0. And there's a reason for that. And that is because a lot of times I'm not taking pictures with my phone, being a photographer. Secondly, I actually got, they make little thumb drives that you can put in your phone. And then I cleared out a whole bunch of pictures because then it slows down the phone. So they do make little thumb drives. And I think, you install a certain app that actually moves all your
clears
pictures.
them out.
Yep, clears them out.
I should probably do something like that, because I currently pay for space because I just haven't gone through them. So now I'm embarrassed to say how many cat photos I have on my phone.
Come on, spill the beans, girl.
Before clearing it out, it was probably, in the hundreds, I'm sure.
Okay. Hundreds.
8,983 photos of cats on my phone.
You go, girl.
But I also do cat rescue. So I take a lot of cat pictures saying, hey, this looks weird. Can someone help me figure it out? And sending photos and videos to the vets. So
excuses.
Well, thank you for joining us, Doreen. And the topic that we have for today, in case you didn't figure it out already, is we're going to be talking about photography for your pets. So this is a fun one because I clearly can use that. Elizabeth, I know that you've been trying to get some pictures of Max now, especially since he's been doing much better and looking much healthier.
Yes. So I've been trying to get videos in particular. Pictures I can kind of sneak up on him. And it's, it's hard to video. I need a GoPro or something, but my daughter's here. And so she has a phone. She's happy to video. So this morning I pulled out this old toy of hers from when she was a baby. It's these little ducks on a string that roll along in a row and it goes quack, quack, quack. Max was like,
wait, how do they go again?
Quack, quack. It's actually, it's like quack, 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 quack. Anyway, so Max had never seen that before. And he was just like fascinated. So I'm pulling it around. So I'm like, get your phone. She gets her phone. The minute she points her phone at Max, he lays down, won't move. It's just
Doreen's like, yep,
yeah,
I understand.
You know what? A lot of times you have to sort of let the expectation of your pet posing, you have to kind of let that go. And I'm going to show you some examples of that, but it's not like when we photograph people where you're like, okay, we're going to sit and pose now. So yeah, absolutely. There's
action
something about
shots.
Whipping out. But yeah, I have a lot of examples of that, but having another person definitely helps, one to distract and one to video for sure.
So then why don't we just kind of go into that then? I think that's a good segue. Doreen, do you want to start off with some tips? Like, I know this is a podcast. We also have followers on YouTube. So if you want to give us any visuals, you guys can always head over to YouTube and check those out. We'll share them on Instagram, but be as descriptive as possible to help our podcast listeners.
Absolutely. Having been a former teacher, I think I can be.
I'm like, she has this. I don't know why I'm telling her these things.
Somewhat descriptive, but I wanted to, first of all, not bog anybody down with a whole bunch of technical stuff, right? So I'm going to give you some tips, 5 things that I picked out that you can do to make your pet photography better. And I also, so I didn't want to bog you down with a lot. And I'm also not going to deal with any kind of technical end. All right. So this is the kind of thing you can do with whatever you're already shooting with, your cell phone, you have DSLR or whatever, GoPro. Okay, sometimes that's great.
All of the above.
All of the above, right? So I didn't want to have to like, talk about aperture or exposure or anything like that. These are more what we call in photography composition, right? Like how you put together objects in a frame. But a lot of times these tips that I give you, some of them are going to seem really simple, but if you're not an actual photographer, sometimes you have a hard time getting beyond the let me plant 2 feet and just put my device in front of me, right? So we have those expectations. I'm going to give you some tips that are going to pull you away from some of those things. And for those of you who are listening, I absolutely encourage you to go to YouTube, because I'm going to be very descriptive, but I'm also going to be showing some pictures in the screen. So 5 tips that I have for you to make your pet photography better. And the first one, and this is going to seem really simple, but get to your pet's eye level. Okay. A lot of times we plant our feet, like trees putting their roots in the ground, and then we put the camera right in front of us. Sometimes we don't think of getting to their eye level. Now, of course, if you're not comfortable getting all the way to the floor with a cat, sometimes it could be, do they sit on the couch or the back of the couch or near a window?
Or jump up on the counters and try to eat the food when they're not supposed to.
Not highly recommended, but getting right to their eye level. And also too, remember with cell phones, you can take pictures upside down. You can turn hold the cell phone and just sort of like bend over and get it down there. And then you can flip them, or a lot of times the cameras will notice the orientation and fix it. Right?
What's funny with that is, and I feel like I'm making a confession right now because I've done photography for a while. But I got to the point where, like Elizabeth said, I was getting frustrated, like, oh, that's the perfect picture, that I've just been running the video and then going back and doing screen grabs, but it does not look as nearly as nice if I had actually gotten the photo.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, just like let the video run and then you take a screen grab of the video.
Yeah.
Yes. And video of itself is really just a series of images that are just flipping by really fast.
And uses up all the space on your phone.
And uses up, which is why you need to get those backed up, right?
Yeah.
The techie in me shudders a little bit when I hear your image.
Oh, we've talked about it before, about how my computer just wouldn't load. And you're like, well, when's the last time you cleaned it out? We're just going to talk about that.
I've been there where things have been like, oh, reset, flip. And you're like, what? And you've lost stuff. So it's definitely not.
But I will say, just real quick, you're absolutely right, because my favorite picture of Mercutio, I made it a glam shot, in fact, is I'm right face to face with him practically. And so it's just like, it's this beautiful face shot of him. But you're right. If it had been from a different angle or down lower, it wouldn't have turned out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and again, because you don't think about it until you really think about it, if that makes any sense. But most of the time when we take pictures, we're just kind of standing and we put it right in front of our face. So this is like the first step to really get beyond what would be the typical habits for doing that, is get to their level, whether they're sitting or laying or whatever. The next tip I wanted to give you, and this is actually kind of going away from the first tip, so it's going to sound like the opposite. And that is, if you're going to shoot either above them or below them, to exaggerate that distance. Okay. So for example, when your pet is in a pet bed, like, the cats have those cute little, oval, circly kind of deep pet beds.
And then they sleep in a box next to it. Yep. I'm familiar.
Or on the floor, hardwood floor.
But imagine what that would look like if you're actually looking like completely straight down at it, and the shapes that you can find as well. Also too, because we know how cats like to remind us of their dominant creature status, they do often climb things. So I had 2 cats, Harp and Guinness. Together they made a black and tan. And they would actually enjoy, when they were younger, getting all the way up to the top of the kitchen cabinets. Which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, Loki's actually up near my ceiling right now. Sometimes he falls down while we're talking.
I've actually caught that once. He fell down behind her.
Because he expects me to catch him.
Oh, of course. Claws first, right? I'm sure. But when I say exaggerate it, think about when your cat is higher, not just your regular standing position, but get your camera like right against that cabinet. So you're looking completely straight up, like a 90-degree angle with the floor. Exaggerate that looking over. So it's just more impactful, you know. For my dog, my German Shepherd, the idea of getting under her when she's looking, it just has that majestic.
Yeah, I'm staring. What an adorable dog.
Cute. Yeah, there's this incredible photo of the dog up here.
That's Miss Rika. So she's my current favorite, you know, my favorite model. But she also likes to sit at the top of the steps, you know. So even just the idea of playing with, like, where are you putting the camera in relationship to the steps and looking up? So there's a lot of drama that you can create by looking, you know, more completely straight down, elevated, or, you know, from an exaggerated downward angle. So it has more interest. You can bring in more layers. The sky, you know, if your pet's an outside pet, you know, getting lower when there's a really interesting sky. Think about like sunset or all those different times of the day that you can kind of capture more within it. And you're also creating a bit of a mood as to your pet's personality. So
now,
that is.
Would you say that that particular tip would be helpful for, I see a lot, especially on Instagram, because they want you to boop the nose so that they get a like, right? Like the angle where they're like right there and their nose takes up like the whole screen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, if you have things like selfie sticks, you could do a lot of fun things with those too, right? Putting your camera on it, or you could actually extend the selfie stick over something, or putting that under, especially if I have a selfie stick that has like a little Bluetooth remote, so I can stick it all sorts of places and then be able to take the shot, right? So you could have fun with that, of really exaggerating, like how much over or under your pet can you get when they're doing something.
You just reminded me that I have a selfie stick somewhere. I used to use it so much I used to get made fun of. And then for a while, do you guys remember everywhere you went, like it was obnoxious how many people had those selfie sticks? They started like putting signs up saying not allowed.
Yeah.
I kind of don't see those signs anymore. So I think you just unearthed something. I'm going to get back into my dorky selfie stick phase. Thank you.
I use mine all the time, but I have a lot of like flowers and plants and different things. Sometimes I use it just to get into the bushes or into the flowers or closer to bees doing their pollinating without actually me having to stick my hand into places.
That sounds smart.
So I don't actually so much use it for selfies. I use it for a lot of other things to get interesting angles. So number 3 tip is actually just play. And, you know, just play, right? We think when we want to do pet photos, we want to get those like we're taking a portrait, but you know, how they play, what they play with, what they look like when they're playing. Are they fast? Are they stalking? All those kind of things, you know, are part of your journey as a pet owner and experiencing your pet. So don't be afraid to just have fun with it. And this is where it comes in, where it's really handy to have another person, right? One person to either work the camera while you have a toy or whatever situation, but don't forget about play. That's, you know, a big part of being a pet owner is experiencing that with our pets. So, you know, capture it. It doesn't have to be formal. Sometimes they come out really fun and really funny and, you know, a true picture of what their personalities are like, and along different parts of their journey. You know, my German Shepherd's 9 years old. So her amount and style of play is certainly different than when she was a year old. How springy she is, or, you know, how active or slowing down, or different things. So it's kind of neat to look back and see different, you know, variations on play. I will tell you, one of the hardest things to do is get your pet running. And I will tell you that I find it easier for people to capture pets when they're going across the front of you than coming closer and farther away, right? When you change the distance, it actually makes it harder to focus. So if you're trying to purposely capture play, something where they have it in one spot, they're not running, or they're sort of isolated, will actually make focus better, because your camera's not having to adjust for distance.
Well, I can get Max running pretty easily. all I have to do is go over where his medicine is and start fixing his medicine.
And he runs away.
He takes off. He runs up the stairs. He waits for me to follow him. Yeah, it's
That's
pretty
funny.
cute.
So at my house, it used to be like shaking a treat. Like I feel like everybody says that. Like all animals have like their favorite treat. You make the noise, they come running. But I think we give ours treats way too much. They don't even flinch anymore because they just know they'll get them whenever they want. But more recently, two of my 500 cats really like turkey, like fresh roasted turkey. So I've been buying some of that.
Like,
and I just, yeah, but I just say that and they come running and they're super vocal. Like it's the weirdest thing.
Well,
so it's like,
you gotta tape that.
I have it on my phone. I just haven't done anything with it. Just like the video I sent you of this is how I give Thor medicine. And then
that was tricky.
The stray cat who wouldn't come in the room, as soon as he saw the gravy tube, just like butted the other cat out of the way. It's like my turn.
Yes, conditioning is a very strong thing in pets. So
yeah, it sounds similar to when you do children. When I used to do children's photography, you want the lollipop.
And listen, a lot of these things apply to kids too. So
nice.
You can apply a lot of these to people as well. So don't forget about play. So tip number 4, and this is totally like a photographer thing, it's called filling the frame, and that's what we call it in photography. It's really just getting closer and just filling the entire edges with something. And my dog playing in the snow, or the fact that my cat Harp had these beautiful green eyes.
I was just drawn to those. They're so beautiful.
Just really getting in there, and don't be afraid to get close once in a while. And of course, if your pet doesn't like you sticking a camera that close in their face and you don't have a lens to telescope, there's always cropping, right? So you can actually do it, in post, as we say. But it's just kind of something different for a change.
You know what, Doreen? Would you say that now, especially with how high quality most smartphones are, and I think you kind of were touching on this, is it's better to just get the shot first, then worry about zooming and cropping? Because I find that if you're zooming it when trying to take it and it's blurry and you're moving around, it doesn't come out as nice. Am I correct?
Well, it depends on what you start with and the amount of pixels you're starting with, right? Every time you zoom in, you're chopping away at the amount of pixels in the image. And then if you're cropping to a certain point where you're sort of stretching those out, you're going to see a quality, a quality change. So it's always recommended to get what you can in frame on the actual original. That's preferred, right? For the best quality, especially if you're looking to get close and you're looking at details. Cropping, you start to lose details. But yeah, cell phones nowadays, what they can do, like now, they come with 2 or 3 lenses. So it's not even a digital telescoping feature. It's actually like switching to a different lens itself. So the amount that you can do with the cameras these days is really, on your cell phone, is really incredible.
Can you tell me which cat was that you just showed us?
All the cats in my pictures are my cat Harp.
Harp, okay.
Yes. So lots of because I had 2 Guinness and Harp. They were actually litter mates, but Guinness passed away before Miss Harp did. So Miss Harp was my cat when I really started to get into photography, and not so much with Guinness. So I definitely have lots of pictures of her.
So I know as a retired teacher, you're used to your students interrupting you. So I'm just going to keep going. What is your favorite story about Harp? Oh, I threw her on the spot.
I know, definitely. I don't know.
Or like a mannerism or.
Well, what was really interesting was to see the dynamic between the 2 of them as litter mates, because Guinness was a bigger cat. So, and we in the house that we lived in the time, we had like the pet door down to the basement where they could go, eat and do their thing. And they used to spend a lot of time there. And after Guinness passed away, it was like Harp was a different cat. Like she was suddenly more friendly. She would come up and like sleep on the bed. It was really like an interesting, and she, the female and Guinness was a male. So once he wasn't around anymore, it was like her personality changed, or she was allowed to sort of be social in a way that she chose not to when she had her litter mate. So that was a really interesting dynamic, and one of the few times that I've ever had multiple pets. I usually have one. I haven't really had a lot of like multiple pets at once. So I always thought that was interesting to see the dynamic in, you know, how she changed after her litter mate. But she was always very demure. I always called her Princess Kitty, you know.
Aww.
Miss Harp, you know, the kind that would very delicately put her paws in front of her, and nothing was like sloppy or haphazard ever with her. She was just, you know, very delicate. So that's my Miss Harp story. So, and but our final tip, and this is probably, as the photographer, me, my favorite one, and that is, don't be afraid to play with different lighting situations. And we had mentioned, Danielle, with how far cell phone cameras are coming, coming along. A lot of people don't realize that your cell phone camera probably has what's called a pro mode, right? Like I'm an Android girl, so I actually, when I look at my camera video and I swipe through, there's one that says Pro, and Pro will allow you to move some of the settings so that you can get maybe some more dramatic things, like a little darker. But in terms of playing with light, you know, their shape, their silhouette, putting them in places where they're making long shadows, times a day when the light may come behind them, and then you get really cool edge light around them, like that little glow.
Like a halo glow, so when they're being bad and you can look at it and be like, no, my cat's really an angel. My dog does no harm.
Well, I can tell you, I have gotten some really weird looking shadows, like cat shadows that I've gotten pictures of, because cats cast weird shadows sometimes.
Yes, they do. But I mean, and I think these are interesting because a lot of the pictures, like the ones I'm showing on the screen for those of you like listening, you know, got to check in on the YouTube. But a lot of them, when I talk about playing around with light, you're not fully seeing their face, or their back is to you. I think cats have a very distinctive shape, especially. So like they love laying in the sun, which really can work to your advantage if you're trying to create something with a little more texture, a little more drama, a little more interest. And again, you'll also see that with these shots of different lighting situations, I'm bringing in, you know, the idea of getting down to their level or getting a little lower. So, you know, we're starting to combine things. But a lot of times we're like, okay, let me take a picture of my pet when I can see their face and they're sitting nice and they're staying and all that jazz. But, you know, from behind, from the side, you know, play around with how the light behaves. I love long shadows. I love what they call the golden hour, right? If you can get that light behind them, if they're an outside pet, you'll get that beautiful, what we call edge light around like their ears and stuff. It looks really
You're getting real excited about that. Make me want to do that.
This reminds me, Doreen, and I had to tell, I knew I was going to tell this story sometime during this, but my cat Checkers, who, if you're looking on YouTube, she is the general. She's a calico. Her picture's on the wall behind me. She ran the household with an iron fist, people and cats alike. Anyway, she was laying in our backyard. We have this area where we have this grouping of 3 trees and there's mulch around them. And she was laying on the mulch. And I took a picture of her and I didn't realize it, but there was this rainbow of light streaming down from the heavens onto Checkers in this picture. And I have it as a screensaver. I know.
You're going to have to share that so we can share it with everybody.
I will. But what was so weird was when I showed my daughter and shared it to her, she's like, yeah, there's a lot of cats that happens to. I was like, what?
Yeah.
She showed me a picture of a cat that's like laying in this rainbow light. It was just so, I will share it. We can put it wherever you want. I don't know that. I mean, I saw the sun shining on her, but I didn't see like the rainbow effect till I took the picture.
I wonder if it has to do with what you were saying, Doreen, where it depends on the level you're at and the lighting for the day, but maybe like it was like misty out or grass was wet.
Right. And there's a lot of environmental factors that can come into how the light interacts with your lens. Height, distance, and angle. And if you ever, you know, just as an experiment, take your cell phone and like point it, you know, towards a light source and actually get that light source in frame, you'll see different beams of light will be reflecting off. So you can actually kind of do some of that on purpose a little bit if you're looking to get like little beams, you know, shooting at them, but they're towards the sun, so to speak. But you know, and there's all sorts of dramatic light that looks really cool. You know, if they wait for a certain time of day, and there's always, you know, sunset, or there's one that's on the screen, you know, describing it in the bottom right corner that I absolutely love, of Heart.
Yeah.
She always loved sitting in the sun, and it was just this perfect, you know, having the front doorway with those little skinny, you know, side panels of window, and just this little sliver of light, and she just happened to sit right
smack in the middle. Yeah.
It was just one of those moments that I was like, where's my camera?
Where's my camera?
Yeah, and you had it. You were lucky. And she has a halo around her too, which is really
right. And that's from the
great.
light coming behind her, right? So anytime of like diffused light, especially because the window did have sort of like those covers on it, where it wasn't like clear glass, it was like a little filtered from the coating on the glass. And anytime it hits the back of you, some of it's gonna, you know, kind of spill off, and that's where you get that little edge, which is really great. But then I love the shadow in it, because you can just see that cat shape
it's a great picture.
It just was one of those moments where she just sat there, and she didn't lay down, she didn't sort of spread out. It was just her. I mean, that's so much that was her personality, that very demure Princess Kitty, where she just would, you know, put her little paws right in front. Her little paws were white, so they're like little gloves.
Love it.
It's just so much her personality.
Yeah. So Danielle, what's your favorite cat picture?
For me, of my cats, are the ones we're looking at on the screen.
Of your cats. I mean, all the ones
I have a lot, and actually I have pictures that I love. We have Carrie LeBlanc art has been on before. So I sent her a couple of pictures that I love. My favorite one of Tony is the toy that I joke with everyone about his favorite toy is the broken stick with a broken string on the end of it with a zip tie. He's actually upgraded, but my favorite picture is after he was done playing, and he like takes it and drags it around the house and drops it, and he just kind of sits with this very like, I did it, it's mine, like very, I don't know how to describe that, but that's one of my favorite pictures of him. And then Loki he's always like dangling off of things when he's not falling on my head, so that's my favorite picture of him. And Thor, my favorite is him eating one of those gravy tubes, because his nose is like all scrunched and he looks a little crazy. Let me think. And then Derek, all of them. He's so cute. He looks like Derek Zoolander. That's how he got his name. So he always looks like he has like the model cheeks, like when I take his picture. And he's got like a screwy eye, but it just adds to his character. I love him. I love them all.
Well, I have another favorite one of Checkers. So this is so funny. My husband's sitting on the sofa, and our sofa has thick cushions, so the cats like to get up behind on the cushions behind us. And Checkers is sitting there by his shoulder, and they kind of both have the same look on their faces, but she just has like this incredibly smug look on her face, like, ha ha, see who I have. It's so cute. I actually took it and made it into a little poster for him. I fixed it up in Canva and made it into a cute little poster for him.
That's cute. As I'm looking up, I just realized all those pictures, most of them that I just explained to you, are on my wall right now. The ones that Carrie made, she made it into digital art. I'm working on rearranging my desk so that those are easier to say, but then the other one is behind my head right there.
Yeah. So Doreen, one thing I am curious about, you take pictures of other people's pets, right?
I'm really more of a portrait lifestyle, but I have done sessions where people bring their pets into it. So I'm not so much specifically a pet photographer per se, but I have done stuff with pets and their people.
So that's what I want to ask you. So what does portrait lifestyle mean?
So portrait lifestyle, actually portraiture is considered more formal. Think of the old-fashioned going to a studio with the textured background, and you're wearing something very, dapper and all that. Lifestyle is really more on trend for what we see today. Like, so for example, in the park, a nice park or something with your family and the kids, and or something that's more environmental.
Like walking through the city, or
right.
sitting in front of a cool building that you like.
Yeah, so pictures more on the street. Even professional branding is going more of a lifestyle way instead of the more formal headshots. It's the, sitting at your desk, or, those look kind of more like you're in your environment or what you're doing.
That pose you just did made me think of glamour shots in the mall back in the 90s. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because my good luck / bad luck charm with my hair is every time I spend a lot of money on lifestyle photos and like do the whole shebang. Like I did one in Hurstthorne Park Woods, which isn't far from me, just because I like, going for walks in the woods and just kind of walking. I had my phone on me, and then I chopped all my hair off the next day, so I didn't look like me anymore, because it was so hot. I was like, oh, I'm over it, time to cut my hair. And then the second time I had photos done was at a deep cut garden, so I like to do a mix of like outside, inside. And same thing, right after that I decided to stop dyeing my hair, so then I don't look like me anymore either. So I think it's time for some new photos.
Absolutely.
So do you help other people get photos, or
so the next part I was going to go into is Doreen was here and sharing her expertise on cats and dogs, but more so on the photography side, which then kind of segues into, hey Doreen, tell us what you're up to, some things you're excited about. Tell us about your photography business, your magazine, and what's something cool that you're working on.
Well, now that I've retired from teaching, I taught music and STEM for 30 years in the New Jersey public school system. Photography, even though it was a legal business, was still sort of a side hustle, I guess you could say. So now it's my everyday hustle.
Okay.
And then I decided to start a print magazine, Grit and Goals, which features women's businesses, lifestyle, nonprofits, podcasts.
Yes, we actually have you guys to thank, your magazine to thank for, you had sent over the sample of what the cover was about, connecting cat people, the Jersey Podcats.
Yes.
We had originally done it as Podcats, one word with just the capital P. And then the sample that you sent, it had a capital C. And I was like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, no, wait, I like it.
Yeah,
Did you like it?
Everything.
Oh my gosh, I like it. And we changed all of our branding thanks to you. I'm like, why did we do that? And she's like, oops.
Is your magazine print and digital?
Just print right now. Just print right now. So if you go to gritandgoals.work, because we do focus on a lot of women's businesses, so I went with .work, gritandgoals.work, you can order a copy, and it will show up at your house. And it's only 4 times a year. It's seasonal, winter, spring, summer, fall. So the summer issue just came out.
Yeah, and I actually have a copy, but it's just out of reach, so I can't get it while we're on camera.
I know mine's over there as well.
Yeah. So what's something that you've learned through that experience? Because you're going through a lot, right? You moved out of state.
Oh yeah.
You retired. Air quotes retired, because we know all of our guests, if they retire, that means they're doing 76 things now instead of 50.
Right. So, it's retired, but not really. It's actively retired, I guess you could say. But the past year has just been madness, because it's been retiring. It's my husband retired. My youngest graduated high school, and then he's in the Air Force now, active duty Air Force. And, my oldest graduated college, looking for a job. It's just been like all while packing up a house. And we sold our house. And then the house that we are in now, when we sold our house, this house wasn't ready yet.
Oh no.
So we spent some time shacking up at a family member's house, and then, moving again to.
And how did your dog do through all that experience?
She did okay. It took she's a very smart dog. She's a very well-trained German Shepherd. And, anytime you have a working breed, you have to expect that you're going to go through a lot of training. So we did. And she's got a great personality, a great temperament. So it just took her like a couple days to find like where the bathroom location was for herself. And then she did good. It's not like we were shipping her off without us,
Yeah, no, I was asking because especially with how busy and the volume we've had with the cat rescue lately, is I'm surprised by how surprised people are that they can't just like pick it. I call it plug and play. Like can't plug and play a pet. Like this cat's acting shy. Why isn't it eating? It's like, well, you just rearranged its entire life.
Yeah.
Give it a couple days, let it settle down.
Right. And when we moved from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, we actually we had a place that we loved for boarding in New Jersey. And then what I did was for the move from Jersey to Pennsylvania, I did some boarding for her for about 4 or 5 days because I knew I was going to have movers come in. We had pods. We had like 4 pods. So we had people coming that were actually going to unpack the pods and put together the furniture. And I'm like, I can't have her in a new space and like experience this chaos. So we came out first to kind of get just a little bit settled. And then I drove back to Jersey to get her. And then that was just, there was nothing else in the car. Like that was just like her journey.
What a good doggy mom you are. See, guys, take some tips away from that. Well, I am surprised with how much we were able to talk about just photography and animals.
I know, right?
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, or what's the best way that everyone can get in touch with you? And then we can go ahead and keep your info in the show notes as well.
Well, the best way would be on my website, doreenphotography.com. And also gritandgoals.work. On Instagram, I am Doreen.Laskiewicz. And I know that's a big, long chunk of a name, but usually if you search Doreen and then like,
then they're like, oh my gosh, it's here. Don't make us spell it.
It kind of comes up, right? And also on Instagram as at Grit and Goals with the word and, not the ampersand.
Awesome. And you can also go to our website. So I already proactively threw you on our website when we were guest featured in the magazine. So you can also go to thejerseypodcast.com and go to, I keep renaming the title, but if you go to the website, whatever one jumps out at you for the guest information would be is where it's at right now. And we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, Doreen.
Thanks, Doreen. This was awesome.
Thanks so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. Give this podcast a rating so other cat lovers can find it. Connect with the Jersey Podcasts on social media or visit thejerseypodcasts.com and leave a message sharing a story or question about cats. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode.